Welcome to the Lightspeed Investing Podcast. I've got Jack McColl here. He is a great friend of mine from Utah in the business, funding, and credit space. And we're here to talk about his journey into entrepreneurship and why he chose this industry as his choice. What's going on, Jack? How you doing, man?
What's up, Philip? It's great to be here with you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, as always, I love your energy. I love talking to you. And I also know that you're an avid pilot out there in the mountains of Utah. You want to share with the people how it is flying above the skies over there?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I just got my private pilot's license about 1 year ago and
Mm,
bought a Cessna 206, which is a six-seater plane. And for me, I'm trying to build the most absolute life of freedom. And I
mm,
think, having private travel is part of that life of freedom, at least for me. And so the easiest way for me to do that was become a private pilot and buy a small airplane. And hopefully next year I'll get a bigger plane. Hopefully a couple years after that I'll get an even bigger one. But it's been great. It's a big time commitment, but it is absolutely amazing. I just flew up to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho last weekend, see some friends,
nice.
and it's great. And also, if you can justify the mileage or the hours in the plane as
Hmm.
business, you go meet business friends, then you get a massive deduction on the plane. Right now, with bonus depreciation back to 100%, you get 100% of that purchase price as a deduction if you can justify that business use.
That's so important to be savvy around and have know-hows around proper business write-offs, right? So how did you get into this, private plane and being an air pilot space, right? Was it through the business funding and credit connections within that industry, or was it just because you lived in Utah?
It was just something I wanted to do. Nothing crazy specific. I wanted freedom, and I wanted to reverse engineer what that looked like for me. And I had private travel in mind, and so I made steps to make that happen. But I think one thing that's important, at least for me, kind of the four stages that I went through to get to the point where one, I had the money to do it because it's not cheap
Hmm.
to fly planes and buy a plane, et cetera. But two, have the freedom to have the time freedom to be able to do the training, which it's not a little time. But it
Yeah,
was four steps I went through. So one, I had to create a product or service that genuinely helped people. And then I had to get access to money to inject into that business to scale the business. And then I put in step three, put certain systems and processes, integrate into the system. So some of those tasks are automated. And then step four, I hired people and built a team of 30 people over time to help
mm,
manage some of those tasks. And at that point, I then bought back some of my time because I hired people to do many different tasks in the business. And then I
nice.
had some money, and then I had some time, and then I wanted to use that money and time to invest into a skill that I think would bring me a lot of freedom in my life. And
Mm.
so I got into private aviation.
I love that, man. So looking at the very beginning, right? Did you know you were always going to be an entrepreneur? Were you born an entrepreneur? I mean, how did you even get into business to start?
Yeah, so my dad was an entrepreneur my entire life, basically,
Hmm.
small business owner, but he was a one man team. So he was a software programmer. He
Okay.
developed a software that managed auto body collision shops,
Hmm.
and he never grew his team. It was just him, and he did the
Oh,
same thing the last 30 years. And
right.
he made just enough money to be comfortable. Like it was a good amount, like not a bunch, but it was like just enough to be decently comfortable. But for
Sure.
him, I noticed it really bought himself time. He had
Yeah.
location freedom, he had time freedom. We would go
Yep.
on snowboard trips, annual trip down to Mexico, and he would, when we went skiing or snowboarding, he would take customer service calls on the chairlift. And so I
Hmm.
saw what business and entrepreneurship did for him and his family, and that always
Right.
inspired me. And so
Ah.
I always wanted to have that same freedom in my life. So I got
Hmm.
into entrepreneurship pretty early. I did study business at University of Washington. I
Hmm.
don't think the degree was that beneficial. I think it did teach me how to teach myself and give me
Sure.
like certain disciplines to like get stuff done,
Yeah.
talk in front of people, things like that.
Right.
But right after college, well, I did get a first job. I was working for an app company called Yik Yak, which was
Hmm.
popular in 2014, 15, as a videographer. And I was always
Mm.
I got pretty good at creating content. And so I created content for the Yik Yak app. I met someone
Okay.
on that in that company that was selling hoverboards. He was importing hoverboards from China and selling them in the States. And that really interested me. And I basically started helping him create content around these hoverboards. And then we got into business with each other 50-50. And we were importing these hoverboards, making really, really good content of them, and then selling them on Facebook. And we partnered up with social media influencers, et cetera. But that was a good example of like when I leveraged a skill that I had, which was content creation,
Yeah.
and then did that for a product that I had. And because we had the best content, we could sell it for a premium. We sold them for like $1,300 instead of our competitors selling them for like $500. And so that was my first legit business, was selling hoverboards, and was really important for us. We were very, very early to market these things. And so there was a lot of demand. But one thing in hindsight, we didn't have much capital to work with. And so we self-funded the business. And for us, like looking back at it, if you remember how crazy the demand for hoverboards was, we had a massive opportunity cost because we only could grow so fast because we were limited on our funding. And so we did all right. But, if we had access to more money, we would have made millions of dollars.
And was that the light bulb moment for you to have the intrigue and maybe even necessity to go, hey, what would it look like, to actually get additional resources through lines of credit, business credit cards, right? Is that kind of that impetus for everything?
Almost. So I realized that we needed access to more money to scale the next business. I didn't know about credit cards, like business credit cards. I didn't even know about lines of credit, business loans. I was super naive to that. And it's crazy because I studied business at a good school, University of Washington, and they didn't teach anything about business funding or tax strategy. All the best.
Of course not. Yeah.
So, but I did realize that we needed access to money so we can scale. So the next product, and before we launched this next product, we went to a trade show in China called the Canton Fair. I think it's like the largest trade show in the world for products, I think.
Okay.
And we found a new product, and it was an inflatable lounger. The ones you see at music festivals, you can blow it up just by like holding it in the air and rolling it up. It's like an air hammock almost. We saw this product just launched in Europe, and no one was selling it in the States. And we just met a manufacturer in China who's making this. So we're like, cool, let's import these to the States. Let's put our branding on it. Let's make really badass videos because I'm good at making videos.
Nice.
Sell it for a premium, and let's be first to market. So we're like, hey, we now know we need to move quick, and we need access to money to move quick. So we brought on 2 equity partners. They brought the funding. They brought certain guarantees, X, Y, and Z. And it did allow us to move a lot quicker, which was a big advantage for us. But then fast forward 3 to 6 months, they were falling short on a lot of their promises. They didn't bring all the funding they said they were going to bring. They didn't get us into all the events they said they were going to get us into. They didn't get all these licensing deals with the NFL and MLB teams, et cetera. And our contract was super weak. And at this point, they had majority share of our company because we were 51% away, et cetera. So ultimately, we had to buy those partners out, which was a kind of a nightmare situation. And we did do that, and it was the best move for us. But the lesson there was, okay, we knew we had to move quick. We got access to the money, but from partners, but we got it from the wrong partners who now had control of our company. And now so that was the second business.
Right.
And then leading to the third business was a travel business. So my brother and I organized Cabo spring break trips for university students. And Cabo San Lucas is somewhere we visited frequently. We knew Cabo. We had influence on with college students, and we're good at marketing, so we can like build representative teams, things like that. But anyways, we're organizing these trips, and again, we knew we needed money to scale quick. We knew we needed to take market share from our competitor, and so at this point, we brought on a loan that involved interest. We got a family loan. There was interest on the loan. And at that point, it did help us get hotel inventory that we bought in bulk. We got a discount for it. And it did help us take market share from our competitors. But what was crazy is literally the week after we invested all of the money we just borrowed into hotel inventory, the U.S. government put a level 3 travel warning on Baja California Sur, the state that Cabo San Lucas is in, from level 2 to level 3, which is reconsider travel. And so at this point, we're like, crap, how are we going to convince college students and their parents to pay for these trips down to a place. There's a level 3 travel warning. So it made it very difficult for us. Right, literally a week after we invested the money. Anyways, we were able to power through. We, thank God, sold all of our inventory, and we took market share from our competitor. And that same competitor ended up acquiring our business, like 6 months after that. And so what we saw there after reflecting is the borrowed money allowed us to move quick, took market share from our competitor, and that led to an acquisition.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we paid interest on that loan. So it brought us to good places, but we still had this pretty big bill of interest on the loan. And so that was a big aha moment for me. Like, that was when actually borrowing money led to something great like an acquisition.
Wow. And so it was after the third venture that you started really looking into, hey, what are the proper strategies to maximize getting access to funding? Is that correct?
Exactly. I mean, every business venture led to a new way to fund businesses.
Yeah.
And literally after this point, I'm 7 years into entrepreneurship, and I still don't know about what we're going to get to is the 0% interest business credit cards, which solved all of my financing issues. And we can talk about how that helped me in business, et cetera. But once we get into 0% interest business credit cards, that's what completely changed the game for me.
So after the third venture, right, and because you got purchased, right, another company, right, you were, how did you stay productive, right? Like, what was that little purgatory period between the third venture and what is that you're doing now that made you go, okay, this is the right direction that I want to head into?
Yeah. So actually, after our travel company got acquired, we actually then worked for that company. It was almost like an acqui-hire. So they acquired our company. They wanted us as talent, and they wanted our clients and our influence.
Okay.
Didn't want us to compete against them.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
They acquired us, and we worked for them, and we were making good money. We were doing outside sales. So we worked with all the highest revenue accounts on the West Coast, UCLA, University of Washington, ASU, to sell those students to come on trips down to Cabo San Lucas.
Sure.
Fantastic opportunity. We saw massive growth within that company because they raised, I think it was like $20 million. So it was really cool to like be an entrepreneur up to that point and then work for a company that's growing massively. Like, we learned so much. We saw company culture. Our sales manager guy, we learned a lot from. So it was really great. We worked for that. My brother and I worked for this company for about a year and a half. And after about 12 months, we started to realize we weren't learning as much anymore. The first 12 months, we were learning so much about how to organize teams, how to pitch these trips in groups, travel, company culture, all these things. We were learning so much. After that 12-month mark, it started to become repetitive. And so we're like, I think we're going to have to do something else like that. That's like when we felt that, like, we're not learning as much. We probably should make an adjustment here. Yeah. And so we decided to quit that job after a year and a half. Yeah. And we really didn't have a specific plan, but we knew we needed to like free up our mental bandwidth. We had some money saved up from what we were, working, and some from the acquisition. And we're like, let's move to Bali, Indonesia. Let's see where that goes. Let's see if there's any opportunities online. And then we actually got into Airbnb arbitrage. Okay. So we rented 3 villas up front, and then we would rent them out for a year, and then rent them out on Airbnb. And this was like,
and did you live in Indonesia as well?
Yeah, we lived in Bali, Indonesia. That was 2019, and so 2019, pretty early on the whole Airbnb arbitrage concept. And we rented 3 villas up front for a year, and then started to rent them out on Airbnb short term. And it was going great. We hired an Indonesian team of like 6 people. Things are going pretty good. We fly back to the States. This is early 2020.
Oh my God.
Something big broke out across the world in early 2020.
Yep.
Travel bans, people couldn't travel. And within about a week, we realized everything we just built, the money we invested in those, villas, because we were renting them for a year, all fell through. So now
Man.
we go to Hawaii. We had the idea, well, if we need a quarantine and people can't leave their house and stuff, let's at least go rent a house on the beach in Hawaii. We got a killer deal. But we had
Were you
quarantine.
able to? How did you go to Hawaii though? Were you able to fly because you're the travel bans? So how did you get there?
It was like right
Did you
before.
swim?
No, we flew there, but it was all regulated. Like you're supposed to like
Yeah,
report to your home or something. I don't know. We
yeah.
basically spent a month in Hawaii thinking about what to do next.
Hmm.
And simultaneously, like a couple of months prior to this, I started to learn about business credit cards. Okay. And so with business credit cards, I was starting to get some applications submitted. I was getting some approvals on these business credit cards. And then it just completely blew my mind because I was getting pretty high limits on these cards. And the business credit cards, they don't report to your personal credit profile.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
So you can utilize the debt, you can get high limits, you can get approved for them with no tax returns or income verification. So a few months prior, I was starting to get really good at these business credit cards.
Hmm.
And then when we were in this beach house in Hawaii, we thought the two most important or most successful industries, in our opinion, at the time during this, world breakout
Yeah.
was e-commerce and consulting. And so we're like, okay, let's get in e-commerce. Let's drop ship products. We can use the capital that we just got approved for on these business credit cards. We can put that into these e-commerce drop shipping stores. And a lot of people are going to be sitting at home buying products. And hopefully we can, provide value in drop shipping products to these people who need the products. And so we did quite well on the e-commerce. We had Amazon drop shipping stores. We had drop shipping stores on Walmart. And the Amazon store did $1 million in revenue in that first year. We had our Walmart store. One of them was doing like 100 grand a month in revenue. And so that was another aha moment for me to see, okay, now I got approved for business credit cards with 0% interest. I put that money into a new business that I didn't have to self fund. I didn't have to give away equity and I didn't have to pay interest. And now it's making me good money. And so
Look at
like,
that stack, man. Look at that stack.
yeah. And it took me 7, 8
Right.
years to get to this point.
Wow.
Even after studying business, it just blows my mind. You can spend that much money on a business degree and they don't teach anything about this specific way to fund
No. And by the way, so
all my
the
issues.
audience knows what kind of business degree are you talking about? Just a regular like business administration, or was it more like nuanced and concentrated? Just kind of curious, right?
Business marketing.
Business and marketing,
Yeah.
right?
Which the
Eh,
only difference is like
yeah,
two classes that you take. You do
sure.
business finance, take two classes different. It's
But isn't it funny, like what they teach you in school versus what you learn in the real world? You know,
yeah. Which
and
I
like
think
at our
for some people it's a good launch pad. And like I learned some
yeah,
things. I learned how to speak in front of people.
sure,
I learned how to work in teams.
mm,
I learned how to
right.
discipline other.
Organized teams,
Yeah, yeah. There's some things that are helpful. I think around the concept of it, but through the learnings, like I don't know. You got to get experience.
No, I mean, listen, that's why at our firm, we always take pride in the fact that it's not about an academic MBA, right? Like your traditional school structure, but more so a real life MBA in the form of a massive bank account, because that's the most applicable thing to whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? At the end of the day, money is a tool, and you can only get the best lessons when you're out there doing it and getting feedback from the execution itself.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. Agree. Yeah. Money is a tool and debt is also a tool to make more
Mm-hmm.
money and then use money to make more money.
So for you, you talk about all the business credit cards at 0% interest, but there's also other forms of business credit and lending, right? What is it that you prefer to go with, and how, or I guess if you kind of look at it like there's tools in a toolbox, right? What is the most applicable in what situation?
Yeah. I mean, so there's 0% interest business credit cards. There's regular business credit cards that don't come with 0% interest, but maybe they're really good for points and rewards. So you can
Hmm.
use those points and miles to get free travel, which is
Hmm.
an amazing byproduct of credit cards. Then there's
Right.
also business lines of credit, which business lines of credit effectively serve as just an additional bank account. And when you
Yep.
pull from the business line of credit, then you pay interest 10 to 15% APR,
Yeah.
over a year. But it's very helpful to also have business lines of credit. Because when you have a business credit card, you can't just pull cash from it. You might have to liquidate it. It's just not like a cash account. So business lines of credit are beneficial to just serve as a cash account that you can pull from.
Yeah.
Credit cards, 0% for 12 to 18 months, pretty incredible. And then there's term loans where they give you a lump sum of money and you pay it off over a period of time. Not my favorite of the three products,
Yeah.
but there's a purpose for them.
And so with your experience, right, in the 7 years being in entrepreneurship, what is your vision and direction now, right, as you move forward?
Yeah, I mean, so right now I have three different core offers
Hmm.
in the credit industry. One's a credit repair service where we help people dispute and remove derogatories from the credit report.
Yeah.
We have a done for you funding service where we help people get access to this type of credit on a done for you approach. And we have a coaching program. It's like a done with you program where we really teach people the skill of credit. And I really think, like, if I learned this when I was 18, 19, 20, getting into business, my life would be completely different. It took me
Yeah.
8 years. Well, now like 10, 11, 12 years to like
Right.
really dial it in so well like I do now. So I've, in my coaching program, I have 3,000 people in that program. We teach a lot of people how to, raise money through this type of credit product. And I think two of the most important things as a business owner to become experts at is how to get access to money and how to keep as much of the money as possible through different tax strategies. It took me many years to figure tax strategy out. I don't think it's
Yeah.
the first thing you should learn. You need to
No.
figure out how to make money, but soon after you make money, you need to learn tax strategy. I remember the first year I made significant money, and then I saw the tax bill. I was like, oh my God,
Yep.
that's insane. So
That's
then I
right.
became fascinated at tax strategy and then became, somewhat of an expert, in my opinion. Now I'm not, I reduced my tax bill.
Do you leverage the offshore strategies as well
No,
for
I don't.
or do you keep it all domestic mainly?
Yeah, I keep it domestic.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't. Well, I have one mentor of mine who does some offshore stuff, but I don't think. I think you have to be at a pretty big level to really leverage some of that stuff. I'm not an expert on that type of stuff yet, but I do know as
Gotcha.
an American citizen, it's to my knowledge very difficult to make money and not pay tax on it. I think first you need to figure out how to get the most amount of deductions against your
There's
tax.
definitely levels to it. Yeah, yeah. So you want to focus on your deductions. Then you want to, maybe look at getting a trust so that you can not own anything but control everything, right? And then you can look at incorporating in places like Ireland, Singapore, Dubai, right, where they offer very favorable rates for tax, but you do have to be at a certain level of revenue, right, for you to qualify. So there's definitely levels to this game, Jack. I'm so excited and so grateful that you came on, told your story. I mean, dude, like that is the behind the scenes of what a real entrepreneur looks like, right? You take all of the mistakes and potential improvements that you could have added on, right, in hindsight, and you just iterate, you stay in the game, and ultimately it leads you to, a better place, right? And that's kind of where you finally are at now, right, after a whole decade.
Yeah, dude, it's an absolute grind, and I think as an entrepreneur, you're signing up for solving problems every single day. The more
Mm,
problems you solve, the bigger those problems are, the more money you can get paid for them. So to think about going to entrepreneurship and not having a hard life, it's you're gonna have a hard life at least for most likely many
hmm.
years. And I don't know if it gets easier or harder, but it's hard all the time, and it's supposed to be hard because you're in the business of solving people's problems. And so I think when you set your frame of mind to that
Yeah,
you are here to solve problems, and there's going to be failures, and you need to open your arms to those failures, and
that's right.
and that each failure is a one more step to the next success milestone, and then there's more
Yeah.
milestones after that.
There,
And
there, there. I always say, we win every day, right? We win every day because regardless, there are no losses. It's only lessons. And if you have that proper mindset, right, it will allow you to flourish, right, despite your dark times.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, one story I want to share. I
Mm,
was getting a new airplane hangar, or to
okay.
rent a new airplane hangar, and this guy I met, awesome dude, like 45-ish. He seemed to be very successful. Nice hangar, 4 airplanes in the hangar, nice area. And I was like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" And he said he built some companies and sold them. And I kind of asked, I was like, what kind of business are you running now? And he said something interesting to me. He's like, oh, he's like, I don't want to run another company. I have a job now and I sell private jets and I love my job. And he's like, I'll never run a company again. And it was interesting to me because, someone of that status, he was successful, but he is done running companies and just likes his job, selling jets. And, sometimes in business, I think, there's pros and cons to running the business and owning it, and there's pros and cons to having a job.
Yeah.
The job, you have a little bit more security, but the con is you probably not going to make as much. But on the founder side, you have less security,
Yeah.
but
A lot more uncertainty.
more uncertainty, but generally a much higher upside.
Yeah, that's right.
So sometimes when I feel low, I'm like, a job sounds chill right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
remember, dude, I'm in business as an entrepreneur. Like,
that's
I'm
right.
people's problems. Let's fucking go. So
Hell
it's
yeah.
a
Hell yeah.
mental battle of just staying ready in the fight with your sword sharp and ready for the next challenge.
Well, and I think it's about your personality, right? And awareness of what you are best suited for with your current strengths and skill sets and what your vision is. Because the difference between, a 9 to 5 is that when you're done, right? You clock in, you clock out, and it's great. And you have structure, right? But if you're in entrepreneurship, you basically are in business for yourself first and foremost, right? And so in order for you to really be able to produce something, you probably have to exceed those 9 to 5 hours, right? And it's like 24/7, right? As you know. So, it's definitely depending on what you prefer, what your personality is. And I think, right, not everyone can be a CEO or a business owner. So everyone has their role in life. So you just got to have clarity. But more importantly, as long as you can live a life of fulfillment. Like I always talk about how as an executive, I work part-time, full-time, and overtime, right? But at the same time, I do not work at all because I love what I do and I love who I get to do it with, right? And so it sounds to me like that gentleman, maybe the reason why he is so happy with his current job is because he doesn't feel like he is working, right? He's just on vacation every day selling private jets. I mean, it's probably a pretty amazing atmosphere, right? If you imagine that. And for someone that enjoys planes, I'm more of a car guy, right? As we talked backstage, I like my Rolls Royces, and I don't get as crazy about the aviation side of things. But look, if that's your cup of tea and you get to live in that world, then it certainly doesn't feel like a burden, right?
It's true. Yeah, super good point. It's true. Everyone's perspective is different and, depends on what you do for sure.
Yeah, man. So, Jack, listen, I'm so glad that you were able to make time to have a chat here today. If the audience listening in wants to connect with you more, right, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, for sure. My Instagram, Jack McColl. That's Jack McColl. Go shoot me a follow. I got a bunch of good content on there on business funding, on travel, extreme sports. I snowboard, I fly planes. Sometimes I skydive. Sometimes I jump out of the airplanes. I have 500 skydive jumps. I've been to 50 countries too. I just hit my 50th country. That was Bulgaria.
Nice.
And I think so far, one of my favorite countries has been Serbia. A great place if no one has ever been. Serbia. Very safe, very clean. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, shoot me a follow on Instagram, Jack McColl. And Philip, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for coming on here, and I look forward to talking to you more. Okay? Have a great day.
Cheers.